Check.
Good afternoon. Today is November 11th, 2024. The time is 16:26. I'd like to call the Building and Grounds meeting to order. There's an agenda before us.
Mr. Atkins, I move that we approve the agenda as presented.
Second.
All right. We have a motion. There's a second. All those in favor by approving the agenda signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. It passes. Turn it over to Dr. Hummer.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Greatly appreciate that. Good evening, everybody. We have quite a few items for information only with our contract awards. We are recommending to go to the full board for approval. But before we get to that, we're going to provide you all with an update on our capital projects, as well as some school projects with the work over at Jameswood High School as we're moving right along with that. So we're going to provide you some updates with that. And then with the approval of our 4th high school and the 2 elementary school expansions, we want to start to have more additional conversations in regards to the Virginia construction project delivery model, as well as the project delivery method recommendations. We are going to talk in more detail tomorrow because we have a full board CIP work session tomorrow, but we just wanted to provide you all some preliminary information as information only, and we'll discuss more of that tomorrow. And then we do have 3 contract awards that we are going to discuss with you this evening, and we're going to ask that you move that to the full board for approval. So with that, I'm going to hand it over to Mr. Goodwin and his team. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman and the committee, and Dr. Hummer. Thank you for the opportunity, as always, to speak with you all tonight. We have a pretty robust agenda with some important items, as Dr. Hummer mentioned. We're going to start our meeting tonight with a capital projects update, and tonight, rather than Mr. Davis, who's not able to be here with us, we're going to showcase some other talent, Mr. Zach Pollard, our Assistant Director of Facility Services, who will be standing here with you. So thank you, Zach.
Members of the board and Dr. Hummer, thank you. We're going to go over the capital projects list highlights. We'll start with some projects in progress. We have Bright Futures, which is Support Facility West. Final inspection was 10/31 with Patriot Fire and Security, $48,000, and Shadow Creek Electrical for $34,720, and that was fire alarm upgrades. We have some exterior door replacements at Apple Pie Ridge Elementary and Orchard View Elementary School. Both those, we're just waiting on 2 more doors for each facility for delivery. Next, the Jameswood Middle School bleacher and track renovation. So for the bleachers, it was contracted for Stadium Solutions. Delayed slightly for some permit issues, just the process itself, but picked back up on September 18th. We did 82 concrete footers, and the bleacher itself was installed late October. All complete, ready to go. The track itself, asphalt was completed 11/1/2024. We got new lines and new logo. So our CAP projects in progress. Looking forward, we got Millbrook asphalt overlay for the stadium lot and also a drain repair. We're looking for the fall for those, and the teacher lot for the spring. Red Bud asphalt overlay for the teacher parking lot, also for the spring. Armall asphalt overlay for the teacher parking lot, and bus loop also for the spring. Sharando High School, we're looking for a boiler replacement awarded to G.J. Hopkins. Apple Pie Ridge Elementary School, some plumbing fixture replacements. We're in design and engineering process for that. Bass Hoover Some interior painting, we're out for bidding on that one. Jameswood Middle School roof replacement, partial replacements for that roof. Bid opened 10/30/2024. And Apple Pie Ridge Elementary School roofing replacement bid opened 10/30/2024 as well. Some additional ones here, Apple Pie Ridge, 2 boiler replacements awarded to Combustion Air Corp. Stonewall Elementary School boiler replacements, 2 of those awarded also to Combustion Air Corp. And Bass Hoover Elementary School chiller replacement awarded to Combustion Air Corp as well. And then unobligated funds updated for 2024. These are funds that were approved by the Board of Supervisors just recently, so that's what we're looking for right now. Sharando High School boiler is out for bidding. Sharando High School track resurfacing design phase. Bass Hoover boiler and water heater is in design and engineering phase. And Millbrook tennis court resurfacing is in design phase. The Orchard View windows and exterior doors, there's no movement, but that is looking if there's leftover funds from those other 4 projects. Any questions for me?
Actually, I have a quick question regarding
Okay.
Sharando's track. Am I going to have to recuse myself when that bid comes in? Because I know that I ran on that sucker 24 years ago and probably tore it up pretty well with my cleats.
We'll just let you test it out once it's done.
Okay, cool. All right, excellent. So no serious question. How long will the bids be open for the roofs? I'm just curious.
I'll probably let Tiffany answer that question
Okay,
specifically.
okay, awesome.
All right.
Great.
Yep.
For the Orchard View windows and door, you said there's no movement yet on it. How much do you need for the Orchard View?
I'm not aware of that number exactly right now, but we can get that to you. All right.
And can we go back to Mrs. Klein's question, Mr. Chair? Is that okay? If I'm not mistaken, those are up for, you were to approve to move to the full board, so they were opened up for a month, correct? Is it 30 days?
It wasn't quite 30 days, you're only really allowed, you only have to leave them out for 10 days, so I think we left them out for 14.
14, okay.
But we did get a
Just want to make sure
Okay.
we answered your question.
Excellent, great. No, thank you.
That help? Okay,
Yep.
thank you. Thanks.
And for clarity, Orchard View windows and doors, a couple slides back, we're at 80%, 90% complete, but it's no movement here. I thought we were just waiting to get the doors in on a shipment.
I think it's additional
Additional?
doors and windows.
Correct. So if I'm not mistaken, Mr. Goodwin, there
Yes.
was the first part of this project is this 90% complete, and then this was the additional aspect of the safety pieces that was going through the unobligated dollar. So it was a second part of that project, if I'm not.
That's
So
correct.
that's the
Yes, sir.
interior doors.
Right, and that's
Correct.
that's a combination of facility services and also safety administration as well.
Okay, all right, that clears it up, because
Yeah.
I know that the one door we were waiting on was the one that was for the exterior going out to the playground. And then so these ones are interior doors. Am I
believe
correct?
so.
All
Yeah,
right.
I believe so.
That's right. We
Correct.
started with the exterior, then there was a back order on that equipment, which is why it's still there. And then the other one is separate because it's interior.
All right. Appreciate it, Zach.
Okay.
Happy Veterans Day.
Thank you, you as well. Have a good one.
All right, thank you. All right, so next we'll move on to have our school project update with Mr. Kenny's Assistant Director of Planning and Construction. So thank you, Mr. Kenny.
Good evening, everyone. Dr. Hummer, Mr. Chair, committee members, additional, thank you. We're at a time at James Wood where not a lot of movement going on, so we'll try to just bring you up to date on what's happened in the past month since we just met about 3 weeks ago. What you're looking at is our family consumer science space has now been occupied. It was occupied starting last week. They moved in from the old space within the inner guts of the building, allowed us to now start this week on doing the last of the asbestos removal in those old classroom spaces and what have you have down there now. So those are the last. We've blocked off hallways. We've got access for life safety plans and things in place. So this area's now been occupied. These are the new 6 family consumer science kitchen area classrooms. We got the classrooms on either wing of these. So these here are now completed and they're occupied at this point. This is the old cafeteria area, just to give you a reference of where this is at. What is continuing on is, we call this it's the upper F, it's the south-facing classrooms on the upper level. These were the old math classrooms. Now they're coming right along. This is accelerated in the schedule. These things, areas were not supposed to be completed until spring. These will be completed at the end of December. So they'll start occupying these, and right after they go back from winter break. So they're moving right along right now. As I think the next slide you'll see is maybe the community room area. Yes, the community room, some additional classrooms, workrooms, and things there. This is right off of the cafeteria we've spoken in the past. So these are right on track. They're all wrapping up at the end of December is where this is at. So these slides sometimes tend to be a week, 10 days old. So everything is, the sheetrock's hung and stuff there. Some accomplishments that we've had throughout the process here with some ad alternates and some funding and what have you there, things have worked out pretty well. One of the things that was a milestone for that group there, they've never had music storage cabinets at this school for sheet music and what have you for band and choir, and we was able to obtain these working with finance and through the economy of up there at the school. So these were all installed. We're missing one end panel there, but other than that, these are all installed. They've already filled these things up. This eliminated a dangerous situation where they had stacked file cabinets, one on top of the other, pull the drawer out, possible tip over, things like that. So we were very fortunate to be able to get these worked into the project up there, and so were the staff up there. Along with that, this is part of the ad alternate. We had a meeting, Mr. Goodwin, myself, and the staff up there last February, March, with some of the band director, and some of the band boosters and what have you. One of the things they wanted was dressing rooms for the band and choir areas for when they get ready for marching band or what have you, or performances. So we was able to get these areas here as part of the ad alternate work. So what you're seeing there is just the finished dressing rooms. These are separate from the dressing rooms behind the stage area. These are down in the band and choir department there that when we went to them. Speaking of such, you're seeing the finished band room, acoustical panels in the ceiling, risers are all gone, acoustical panels around the walls. Everything you're seeing here is a very enlarged classroom. One of the things the staff there has remarked, this can also double up as training rooms, testing areas, things like that for SOLs, those type of things. So this becomes a more than just a band room. It becomes additional classroom space, training, things like that. So it gives a lot more versatility within the building. Choir area stayed. Everything refreshed, upgraded there. The risers did stay in because that's an integral part of theirs. But you do see the new acoustical things. These, it's very welcoming and humbling when you go to see staff up there after so many years, actually literally near tears with so thankful for these spaces that got upgraded here. So they were very, very appreciative of what this wound up to. And all the storage rooms, everything around these rooms here got upgraded, but we just did the pictures of these areas here. So what you're seeing there is that new choir area, their acoustical areas there. So that's all I have. I hopefully have some more, but we're winding down up there. Everything is right on schedule. We'll be fast and furious over the Christmas break. We'll be doing the auditorium sprinklers. We'll be doing a lot of additional structural work up there for re-enhancements and things like that. So hopefully we can give you a little better update on that, but we are winding down quickly. We'll be wrapping up the project. It's anticipated in completion into March up there, a couple months ahead of schedule, and so we're moving right along. They are taking down some of the construction trailers and things are starting to be removed. We're giving more parking over to the student parking. We'll be restriping some of those parking lots next week up there, so to get that, so they can get more parking out for students and better flow up there. So it's moving right along. So on to the next. So any questions?
Questions from the board? Just want to say, taking that tour with you a couple months back and then coming in and seeing the pictures now, it just, wow, 180 in a quick turnaround time. So hats off to you and hats off to the folks over there at Branch.
Appreciate it. I like always, I pass it on to the people doing the work. So I appreciate everything. Thank you.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Kenny. All right, so don't worry, I'm not the Director of Planning and Construction. It's just me. I'm Shane. I'm going to present to you tonight some of the Virginia construction project delivery models. We usually talk about 3. So I'm going to focus on those tonight. You have design, bid, build, CMAR, construction manager at risk, and then public-private partnership. So of course, as is talked about in the slide there, each one of these has something you gain if you go with it and something you might also lose. So I hope that what we talk about tonight captures the desires that you shared with us and shows that we've been listening, trying to make sure that we save money, but also maximize our control over the design process so that we can partner with our community, our board of supervisors, and the people they bring along to help us get these projects completed. The first one is design, bid, build, so that might be one that we're most familiar with. It's a more traditional approach where you hire an architect to complete a design and then a project gets put out to build, and then contractors bid on that project. And this is the one you're always thinking about where the low bid wins. So design, bid, build allows the district or the division in our case to have more control over the design process, but it can lead sometimes to a little bit longer timeline, but not a length of time that you really need to be concerned about. CMAR, we've worked on that, I believe, at Ayler, we've Indian Hollow, and also James Wood High School. So that's more where a construction manager gets brought on early to work with the architect and engineer. Then you come up with a maximum guaranteed price or guaranteed maximum price. So that's involved something that can work on money in terms of a guaranteed price, but what you lose in this fashion a little bit is the design control, which is something that you all have, talked about, something that you'd like to have. So you do have a guaranteed maximum price, but you get charged for all of the changes you make along the way. And then you have the public-private partnerships, and with these, a private entity usually has something they want to bring to you that they would share. Let's say, as an example, Shenandoah University said, we want to give you $20 million to help build a professional development building. We want you to hook that onto your high school. Can you build that in? We'll also put a gym on the side for you. They're bringing something to you from the private entity that you can then use as a public building. We don't have anyone that's asking to do that. So I won't really offer that to you tonight as one of our suggestions, but that's where you hear more about that. So specific project-wise, Middletown, Jordan Springs is the 4th high school. So what we're planning to do is use the design, bid, build process at Middletown for the construction manager. Same at Jordan Springs, and in the 4th high school, it would be for the architect and also for the construction manager. One of the reasons that we feel good about recommending use of the design, bid, build process is we're seeing a large number of firms bid across the Commonwealth on projects. And so that means that the price is going to be usually lower. And so we want to make sure we do that. We also want to maximize the opportunity that you all have to provide input about the design process for the longest period of time possible. That's what's different about the design, bid, build versus CMAR. Again, maximizing your opportunity to provide input, to partner with our board of supervisors and the architect that they may bring on board to work alongside us and gather input from our community. The design, bid, build gives us maximum control over that. So what that would look like as we roll it out, so our plan would be to use that Middletown, our current task order vendor. We've already spent a good bit of money on plans with our task order vendor to design that site-based plan and those room spaces, but we would have to go out for a bid process for the construction firm. Jordan Springs would be the same. You've seen the plans for those as well from the site and also for classrooms and space. Now, I do want to remind you all and also remind the public who may be watching that there will be lots of more input opportunities for stakeholders in those final plans, but we feel good about the involvement we had at the school level. We just want to expand that now to add other stakeholders as well. On the 4th high school, we recommend the use of the design, bid, build process. We would begin that with an RFP to select an architecture and engineering firm, and then we would follow that by another second bid process to collect, to basically to hire a construction firm. So we'd start from scratch, design, bid, build, both of those processes, and provide maximum, gather maximum input from our community and all stakeholders to be involved. So those are the slides I wanted to present you with tonight. Do you have any questions about those processes or our plans to move forward with those specific ways to do these projects?
Questions from the board?
Mr. Atkins, actually.
Send it.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Mr. Goodwin. This is
Thank
great
you.
information. I'm sure we're going to get into this in more detail
A lot
tomorrow.
more detail.
So if I'm delving into that detail too much, just redirect me and I can ask the
Just
question
bring it. We'll
tomorrow.
we'll
Bring
deal with it.
All right, sounds good. So back on slide 16, the design bid build process, I just want to make sure I have both of these processes straight in my head.
Okay.
So design bid build, so more control over the design, which I really like.
Good,
My only concern, though, is with the CMAR, there's a max price.
right.
I like that. That sounds good to me. Max price, 151 million or whatever it is, hopefully less. That's the maximum amount they're allowed to spend. With the design bid build, I fear that we could get nickel and dimed and that price could go up. I fear that whoever wins the initial bid would say, well, shoot, Diana, we'd love to give you that extra wall there to create 2 classrooms instead of 1, but that's going to cost you money. Just as an example, like, is there a way that you can assuage my fears, or am I off base?
Well, I have some incredible members of my team here who I may welcome up here to try to answer some of these questions. Mr. Kinney has a lot of experience with this as well. I would say that, again, like I talked about in the beginning of the presentation, they both have a trade-off. So one process for the design bid build, you have your architect, you have your plans, you bid that then for a construction manager who's going to build what you've designed. So then you can change those along the way, but again, there's cost associated with the CMAR because they basically do a change order cost increase. And so, Mr. Kinney, would you have anything you want to add between comparing those 2 processes that I haven't stated already? I'd appreciate your help if you have any.
Sure. They're both complicated, okay? We'll say that right off the bat.
Yeah.
There's no clear-cut winner, loser in my whole career. When you do the design bid build, okay, we're gonna advertise for our architect. We're gonna get those, and we're gonna start working with stakeholders, and it's gonna be a 15-month process. They usually don't have too much input. We've already started our schedule. We've already laid it out when we think that will go to bid, things like that. We're anticipating right now by March of 26 is when that goes to bid. For all through that period of time, your design team is working with basically our staff, our stakeholders, department heads, everyone like that. There are multiple meetings comes in. We get what we want. What we feel is the product we're ready to put out to bid. And so a good question you had there was, okay, I want to start moving a wall or something like that. That would happen after it's received back. And let's say we're very fortunate, like most other school districts that we're seeing here, they're coming in 5-10 million under. We determine then if we want to, and we'll incorporate through the design maybe some add alternates, things we like to incorporate in the project, but we don't know if they're ready to be put out to bid yet. So let's say that comes back in and we said, oh, we want to add the walls like you're talking about. We want to enlarge something like that. We try to anticipate that as we're going along so we see where we're at on the budget when we get down. What usually happens is a lot of people can't visualize things until they're built. So when they do get out there, they said, oh, we had no idea that was going to look like that. We need this bigger. Then when you start moving walls, you might move a wall that's to be a potential bearing wall. You might be moving something that's a non-bearing wall. And it's where we come in to hold the cost, and we start cranking numbers out and things like that. So to answer that portion of it, you don't know until bid day where you're at, but you do. We're seeing favorable results coming back. So hopefully then that we can, any changes made, we're covered in the budget. We're still working on a max budget there, and we anticipate that coming in lower. Flip over to CMAR. The CMAR would be you get to work at all those details, just like you said. It's a guaranteed maximum price. We're working towards that. We're working with our A&E team. We're working with our construction manager, our contractor. It's already on board. They've bid on their services. They have to bid on their early general conditions package. So that's where the bidding portion takes part there. We usually select the most qualified, lowest bid there to work with our A&E team through the process. So again, stakeholders are involved, just like we did Jameswood, Indian Hollow, Ayler, like those. They're involved. All the departments are involved. So they said, I want that wall here, there. We want this look. We want that. And the contractor's given instant feedback with his subs. He's already selected his subs. We get a say in the subs be selected, things like that. Ones we've worked for in the past or worked with us in the past. So that's a good process also because you're working towards the end goal of the final design, the final guaranteed maximum price locked in. We've got some contingency money in for any possible changes that would come up or things like that. You take a clean cut project like an Ayler or Fourth High School, they're easier to do the CMAR process. This renovations and things, you have a lot of things, the unknown. So both, nothing's wrong with either delivery method, it's just a way to go about it. So being the concern of nickel and diming, that's kind of where we come in to make sure that we hold the line. I'm doing the same with contracts all the time. Right now, we're doing it right now. Nope, we said this was going to be our price. You got to get to budget. You got to get there. So that's where we're holding the line for the taxpayers out there and what have you. But both methods are great methods. We're just seeing a lot of good results right now with the design bid build, I would say, out there right now.
Okay.
I hope it's not too long-winded of
No,
answer to your.
No, that helps. I mean, CMAR, I definitely can see the advantage to that, but with
Yeah.
the economy being as it is now, I can understand why you
Yeah.
recommended the design bid build.
There's definitely, it changes. It definitely does. The market does change.
One more quick question, Mr. Atkins, if that's all right. So with the integration of the Board of Supervisors, architect, and whoever else they decide to hire for this project, I just want to make it abundantly clear, my assumption is that that will be the funding of those individuals will be coming out of their coffers, not out of ours.
Not out of ours.
Okay,
Yeah, that
excellent.
was the way I understood it also. So I
Okay,
hope I'm not
just-
speaking out of turn on that one, but that's the way I understood it.
Okay,
Yeah.
just want to make sure. Thank
Yep.
you.
All righty. Thank you.
Just one follow-up for you, Mr. Kenny. And sorry for the kind of open-ended question, but I heard 15 months. Is that pretty customary?
Pretty
Is that
much
kind of
for a
timeline
high school,
customary?
yes. Yes, I think Ayler, we did that in about 13 months on that, but that's pretty standard. If you talk to different A&E firms out there, that's not being unreasonable. High schools are tough. You've got the whole big athletic portion of that, all those facilities, the things out there. But if we advertise like we anticipate, and Ms. Chapman has worked out some dates, and we're very comfortable with the dates we got that'll go out. We have to advertise and length of time it's out there. We probably won't have a contract with those people probably till after the first of the year for an A&E firm. That once we do the evaluation, it's a long process. It's just not bidding on it, that we have to bring them in, interviews, things like that. So if we can get that out the door in January, then that would put us right about that 14, 15-month process there. Could go a little quicker than that, but that gives everyone a chance to have the input, stakeholder meetings, those things like that. Yeah, we're starting fresh. I mean, we have no team to say a school to come into, so we're going to reach out to our high school principals. We're going to reach out to a lot of different personnel to bring input in, bring them in for meetings and stuff like that, so that architect team works like that. Then they're working with their mechanical engineers, design people like that. So quite laborious process there. I mean, you've got a lot of moving parts that you got to nail down. So 15 months is a reasonable time. It's not stretched out too far. And that puts us on a timeline to kind of just keep talking a little bit. Puts us on a timeline. It'll go out to bid around the end of March, 1st of April, on the street for 30 days. Puts you into May. Now you're kind of clicking into May. You get it back. If there's any VE process, say it's over, under, we want to add some add-on things. We get a contract by June of 26. That hits the ground running. That would put a substantial completion of 3 years, about the end of June of 29. And that would put you completion date, which is about a 30-day swing after that for punch lists and things like that, the end of July, ready for school to open in August of 29. So it seems like it's way out in the future, but it goes quick. But right now, we're in that critical time for putting it out to bid, getting our A&E team on board. That's the next thing we got to do. It's wide open. All right?
Yep.
Okay. All right, thank you.
I've got a couple questions. I don't know who'd be the best to answer it. Anyway, how quickly can we get started? Can we start tomorrow? Get everything out, like as far as
So, Mr. Chair, I was actually gonna mention that. So if we go with the design bid process tomorrow, we can get moving. We do not need a board approval to do that per state code and our policy. If we were to move forward with the CMAR and the PPEA, the board would have to approve that. So if you all are good with it tomorrow and there's a consensus to move forward, we're moving. So just wanted to mention that as well.
My next question would be, is it true that we can hard bid this and make sure we do not exceed, understanding and with respect to, let's get it on paper right the first time and not make it a dream sheet later. If we can get, all of our classroom sizes nailed down, our band rooms, our gyms, cafeteria, everything like that, if we have it nailed down, there shouldn't be any ad alternates or anything like that coming in, and that'll definitely save some taxpayer dollars. I know that with the CMAR process, the community hasn't gotten what they originally wanted. Look at Ayler, Jordan Springs, what have you. Mostly Ayler. I wouldn't really categorize Jordan Springs into that. But so I'm happy with the design bid build process. I just want to ensure that we can hold fast to the money that we've gotten from the taxpayers in downtown on that. So I would like to see that legwork going in on the blueprints and all of the architecture work before we approve it. That way, if anything needs to be done, we're not running into load-bearing walls or anything like that. Any structural members on the building. So, yeah, if it does take a little bit longer in the architectural process, I'm fine with that. So let's put foot to ass early on. That way, we're not playing catch up later.
We do believe we can do that. And from an ad alternate perspective, I think, we would be remiss not to think about the comments the public made about can we get more students, than we put out for. So that one of the ad alternates could be to actually consider those additions that would allow the school to be built at a larger size. That would just be an ad alternate if you were to happen to have that money available from those funds. So I think we could be very responsible. We conducted a very lengthy program of study before we put it out to try to get a dollar figure that we could get that we feel really good about. So again, lots of more input tomorrow night we'll provide, and we'll have a timeline there for each of our projects to consider and talk about further, but I hope that helps.
It does. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Great, thank you. All right, at this point in time, I'd like to invite Tiffany Chapman to come up. Tiffany is the Purchasing and Accounts Payable Supervisor for our next slides.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, Dr. Hummer. I do have a couple contract awards, but before we move on to the contract awards, I want to go back in time a little bit. The slide in front of you right now is a slide that was shared by Mrs. Camry at a previous Finance Committee meeting. If you remember, we are partnering with George Mason University for a project at Dow J. Howard, and there are a list of proposed uses for that money down at the bottom. I want to draw your attention to the second bullet on the list, the Data Hub Lab facilities renovation and HVAC. That is the project that we have up for contract award tonight. We are using some of the grant funding that we are receiving through that partnership to fund this project. And I do have Mr. Kenny and Mr. Thompson here to answer any questions that you might have as we go through. So what's up on the screen now for you is the Dow J. Howard Diesel and Data Science Labs renovation and HVAC. The award amount is $1,196,363.29. If you remember, we originally spoke about this being only grant funds. The grant funding that we received, the portion that's going to this project was $646,095.81. Since we received the bids in, you can see that the bids that we received are obviously much higher than that, much higher than expected. So we will need to add local dollars to that in the amount of $550,276.48. So at this time, we are looking for, we are recommending to forward to the full board the contract award to PBI Environmental Restoration, LLC, for the Dow J. Howard Diesel and Data Science Labs HVAC renovation in the amount of $1,196,363.29.
So, Mr. Chair, if I may, so when we initially proposed this, as Mrs. Chapman just mentioned, we did not anticipate that we would need to use local dollars for this initial construction. That's why we're bringing it for you this evening. The bid amount of the 1.1 million was higher than we anticipated. The $550,000, you're probably asking where that's coming from. We have unobligated dollars every year that we usually access, and that's where we're proposing to take that money from, so we can't afford that. But I do want to make mention that this is different than when we initially proposed because of the change in that bid process. The other piece, if you can go back to the previous slide, because we did talk about this last time, and Mr. Atkins, I think you brought up this question as well, is that this is a 5-year grant. So after the 5 years, if this program is up and running and it's going very well and our students love this program and it's leading them to access to career opportunities and we want to keep that program going, if the state is no longer going to provide those dollars, we have to fund it. Now, go back to the forward slide. We are not going to need the 1.1 anymore because that's just to renovate that space. We're going to have to determine how much that is going to cost. Now, the other aspect to this program is this is a regional program. So this will be something that we might have conversations with those other regional schools in regards to what that funding is going to look like. And this is accessing the lab school dollars that came out from the state, and we've had conversations with VDOE in regards to where is the money going to come from after 3 to 5 years, and there's not very much response to that besides we'll cross that bridge when we get to it. But this is, on a positive note, this is a good opportunity. Actually, I'll change that. This is a great opportunity for our students. One of the things that we want to focus on is providing students access to high-demand jobs and jobs that are up and coming, and this data sciences access is one of those jobs. The other aspect of this job is that you don't necessarily need a college degree to make it in this field. And these individuals are actually making a lot of money going right from high school right into these fields, which is a great aspect to this program. So just wanted to make sure you were aware. As Ms. Chapman said, we do have Mr. Thompson here who can answer any questions with this, but I want to make sure that we are very transparent and open about this, that this was a change. And I just want to make sure that you guys are aware. If you don't approve this, then of course we wouldn't be able to move forward with this program. Just wanted to share that aspect of that as well, that we would not be able to move forward unless we found another space, which we weren't able to do. That's why we proposed LJ. So that's where we currently are. And then of course we're open up to additional questions.
Questions from the board?
I do have a couple. So just from a kind of legacy standpoint, understanding what the original proposal was, I heard both of you say that there was a pretty significant increase in cost. What accounted for the increase?
So I'll have to defer to Mr. Kenny and Mr. Thompson for that.
Sorry, Ben, I didn't know if that was
Sure,
a
you're
you
fine.
question.
Great question. Great question.
So thank you. So first, just to be completely clear, a lot of the engineering required for some of the rooftop units increased the cost significantly. Some of the conversations that I heard was unable to verify the weight of the old units, unable to verify what the capacity of the roof could handle. And so some of this has to be moved to the ground with proper fencing and whatnot, or structures around it to prevent tampering with it. And so that's considerable cost. The other thing that I will say is also in here is with the grant funding and pretty much, no, not pretty much, all of this money is just HVAC work and a wall to divide one of our labs into 2 spaces so that we're being careful not to have too big of a space and, waste space because it's such a premium. And then some basic furniture for the classroom. So there's not a lot in the terms of renovation that kids will see per se. It's really getting heat and air into the building with units that are tremendously old that we continue to struggle with and have issues with. So this was a great opportunity to kind of piggyback on some grant funds to get stuff paid for that we really need. And I've been abundantly clear, and don't want to go too far down the rabbit hole, that this does not complete the HVAC needs at Dow J. Howard. This is probably 30% would be my rough estimate. And I would defer to Kevin on that. But again, don't want to go too far down that. Really, this is to get HVAC work done that really needs to be done where kids have never had air conditioning in those spaces, in those labs, and so it can get incredibly hot, especially because the units we have do not do any kind of dehumidification. So it's in a late May day, it might be 95 and 95% humidity in those labs, and that's incredibly hard for the kids to learn in that environment. Same thing when we first come back into school in the August to September 15th. It can be incredibly hot in those classrooms, and the best thing that we provide right now, just reality of it, is large barn fans from Tractor Supply. So, yep.
So with this total of the 1.196, that's just the construction cost of the wall and the HVAC. Does that include the additional personnel that you need that was in the other slide at the bottom?
So no, because none of that comes out of year one or year zero. That comes out of year one next year. And so that money is all. So this is the only year that we would be asking for extra money. Next year and the year after, the next 2 years, it's all there in terms of fully funded in terms of personnel and whatnot. And then if it wasn't, we would work within the budget that we have. It's just this renovation piece up front that has come in significantly higher cost than what we could do. You know, some have asked, and just to share is, could you move some money further down the line to year one or to year zero so that you're able to afford that? And the max amount for the budget is $1 million in year zero. And so we're at that. The other part of that administrative fee that you don't see to get to that million is George Mason University's portion. And so that's, we moved it to make it the absolute max. We moved some money. There was a lot of work to get to this point even. We moved as much money as we could from year zero to year one for purchasing. So literally, like on July 1, there'll be like $171,000 roughly worth of equipment and materials ordered so that we can even make it. And so we've done, be able to open next year. So there's a lot of stuff moving around that we've done just to be able to pull this much off.
Just final question. This is mostly programmatic because you know that space and the staff and the need better than anybody. Are you getting everything that you need to really make this program great, or did we have to squeeze blood out of a turnip to get here?
I got what you said. So, and folks will know this, one of our mottos is best is the standard at Dow J. And so we're not going to be, we always like to be on the cutting edge, but we're not ever going to be on the bleeding edge is what I would say, right? So we're going to do things the best that we possibly can, but we're not going to go so far as that, making stuff so, that's so expensive that it just doesn't make sense. We would never do something like that and burden our taxpayers with that. That's not something we would do. I feel like we're in a good place, balancing everything. Surely there was some things that we cut out. Mr. Kenny could share, we really wanted to add some daylighting to the space because we have a very small window right now, but that was just going to make it much more expensive that we just didn't want to go down that road because we felt like it was going to be just too expensive. And that, some other things here and there that, certainly we may like to do, but at the end of the day, it is my belief that the teacher and the relationships they make with the kids is what drives the program and what makes the experience so good. So, and it's almost, and they need to have the right equipment. So I feel like we're in a good place right now. We worked with the state and they gave us some flexibility in reducing the size of the program down to 60 kids, versus in the beginning we were looking at like 100 or 100 plus. And so with the reduced funding that the state provided us, they were agreeable and amenable to the lesser student population so that it could all work out. Originally, what we thought, and again, not to go too far down, but to share a little bit more information, we were looking at having something built on the foundation that used to house, or used to be, modular homes used to be built on. But that it got too expensive with the reduced funding. This grant was originally 6 million roughly, somewhere in that neighborhood, and it got reduced to 2.8, but our proportion roughly 2.3.
If you're happy, then that's enough for
Yep.
me, so,
Yep.
yeah, okay.
Mr. Chair, if I may,
Go ahead.
I actually have a question for you. So with regards to the current HVAC systems that are there, you're saying they're not really working very well and it's causing humidity issues and such. Is there any effect to the equipment that's there, or the new equipment that would come that would be damaged from this with the old HVAC equipment that's?
So the new HVAC will be completed before the new equipment comes.
But let's say the HVAC system, I mean, are they mutually exclusive? Does the new equipment require a new HVAC system in order for that and not to have issues? I know humidity is not the greatest thing for technology, and I didn't know if this would be an issue.
Yeah, so I don't know the technical limits of a lot of this equipment, but I would go out on a limb and say a 95 or 100, even in the summer when kids aren't there, 120 degrees inside of a concrete building is probably not going to be good for computers, even in storage. So I would go out on a limb and say that's probably a good.
So it's a good idea for us to have this HVAC system.
Yeah, no, and
Excellent.
worse off, just not good for kids.
Well, who cares about them, right?
Yeah.
Any other questions? I've got a couple things. Yeah, when this got brought to us, we're thinking it's all coming with grant dollars, and I know that it went out and it got kicked back because the price went up. This committee's asked several times for the bids to be put on here, and the competing bids are not on here. So do you happen to have those? I'd like them to be, put on the slides for the public. That way they can see that. Thank you. All right, so we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 6 other bids on here. And I'm seeing, even with this, Patriot Fire is a lot lower, significantly lower. Why? I mean,
So Patriot Fire, we had to deem as non-responsive. They made a terrible mistake in their bid process and were bidding only on the electrical portion of the project.
that makes sense, because I wouldn't think that they would be doing HVAC work. Yeah, they're still lower. So but I mean, this is the information that we're asking for in these slides.
If I may, when we do close these bids, we do post them publicly. The bid tab is posted out on our website. I can work with staff, of course, to get it added to your packet.
Please. Yeah, this is something that we've been asking for a while. I mean, I was close to tabling this for tonight until we got that information. I don't want to, because I think we do need this, and I think it's a great program. All over Northern Virginia, you see these big data centers, and those are all run by diesel generators and stuff up on top. Data science is something else that's in our area. And I don't want to deny our students that opportunity, but if we're having clerical errors on stuff like this, yeah, it makes me think a little bit. But I'm okay with going forward with this. I share Ms. Klein's concerns about after the 3 to 5 years is up and we're looking for money from the taxpayers on this. Realistically, how much would that, a rough guesstimate?
Can I just, to clarify, would that cost once this money is out, we would just be talking, because by then the infrastructure is there, am I understanding correctly? So at the end of the grant, it would just be personnel or something else?
Technology changes, right?
So
Constantly.
equipment
So
upgrades.
equipment could be changing.
I just wanted to make sure I understood.
So you would always have the potential of equipment change. Like, there's no doubts about that, right?
Right.
There's always the potential for technology equipment to change regardless of the program. What I will tell you in terms of staff terms, like probably somewhere in the neighborhood of 5 FTEs. right now. Now, the good problem is if the program grows like everything else has been growing at Dow J, then it may be more. In full transparency, one of the things that you said, I just want to make sure that it's aware, because I don't want to let it go untalked about and then we think otherwise, is the reason it is shared as diesel and data labs, science labs, is because that's what it was when we were originally going to go out to bid, and we can't change that anymore. We have pulled back from the diesel side of it because it simply, we just don't think we can get there in terms of the additional cost for materials and equipment of that space. And we lost the potential bid, or we lost the potential grant funding source for our criminal justice lab space. So criminal justice lab is going to move into what would have been the diesel lab. And that will be minimal expense compared to a diesel program. So just wanted to make sure that I shared that information with you. So ongoing, the cost would be much less. I'm always someone that looks at the glass half full and try to, the flip side to this is if we don't have this grant and we don't have access to it, is that we ask for 1.196 for the total from the local taxpayer to be able to get HVAC up to what it should be just in this portion of Dow J. Howard. And again, one of the things that I've worked with facility services and we've identified is, some of these units at Dow J, even after this repair, we're talking original to the building that, when you open up it looks original to 1970s. And so that is stuff that is held together and worked on multiple times, within a given month. It's not something that we just we work around or work with, once every 2 or 3 months. There is many times in a month that I reach out to facilities and say, hey, we need somebody here. The air conditioning isn't working in this space, or the heat's not working in this space, and and they're very responsive. I can't complain about facilities. They've been wonderful, but I also know that they have 20 other buildings or whatever number of facilities they have that they need to address with 2 or 3 HVAC techs. So
No, and to your point, then that's one of the big reasons why I'm comfortable with going forward with this. One, we see now that it is the lowest bid on here, and then we also, we're also getting our HVAC units at 40% the cost.
Yep.
Ish. So I'm comfortable with moving forward with that. I just wish that even where you just brought up the diesel's not going in there, I wish that was brought up in this presentation, for clarity and transparency. I just think we just need to be doing a better job on this. So I'm comfortable with moving it to the full board. We have a recommendation before us.
I have just two more.
Oh, go ahead.
Two more quick questions.
Sure.
Two more questions and then a request. So
Yep.
first question, just to clarify, when I read the diesel and data science labs renovation, I'm thinking diesel mechanics school, like diesel engines. Is that what that is, or is it a diesel?
So originally that
Originally?
was the direction
Okay.
we were going, but again, when there's a courtyard space at Dow J, the original plan was that we were going to try to access opioid money to make that into a criminal justice space. That has since not been
Not happening.
seen as feasible for a variety of reasons. And so then we had to shift because now we've had such a popular criminal justice program where we have to add the second part of the program next year because we have all these kids in, the big cohort of kids in 1, they're going to be going to 2, and we're in essentially one large classroom. So we needed to utilize another space. So then the only other option that we had at Dow J was to move into where we were potentially going to access or have a diesel program.
Okay.
And so that's what got us to where we're at.
Got it. Okay, hence the name. Thank you.
Yep.
That was confusing. One more quick question. I know you mentioned earlier that when you had heard murmurs of the reason why the cost is so high for this HVAC system is because the roof maybe wasn't strong enough to handle it. Is it just because the new HVAC systems have more capabilities? They can dehumidify? Are they just heavier?
So that's
the
probably
case?
more of Kevin. I'm getting really far down in the weeds, but I'll let him answer that because
Because this is almost a double, it's
Yeah.
just very, very expensive. So help me
There's a lot of
understand.
different things in play at structure out there. One of the things we bring in are structural engineers to evaluate the building. They go all over the building. They had a hard time identifying what type of materials was used for the roof rafters out there. They're the old, you see concrete double Ts, or you'll see steel. These are not. These are individual structural concrete rafters like that are spanning some fairly good distance out there. And they had a hard time getting the data back from when those things, so to find any specs on those, so where there's manufactured. One of the other things that they encountered out there is the same thing we encountered at James Wood. We only had 6-inch bearing CMU walls when we spoke about not being able to increase the daylight in the windows and change nobody wanted to touch the walls because it would have opened up another Pandora's box of structural supports out there. So the rooftop units that we have currently now, yes, they do way different to verify there is some structural enhancements that are on that's holding up these rooftop units now. They all have to be verified. It's hard finding that information 50 years old. That's in our records. That we can go back, and they just didn't have the data back then we do now. So yes, you are dealing with that aspect of it. Some of them we had to put on the ground because we couldn't verify the roof loads. And anytime you add a rooftop unit to a roof like that, you create another design, inherent design factor comes in is called snow drifting. The bigger the units, the more snow drift, the more weight you got up on the roof. So to get all that stuff confirmed and verified, and they just couldn't, an engineer just wouldn't put their name on, so they recommended some going on the ground. Entails a little more ductwork, concrete pads, things like that. They were putting those, we was fortunate enough that we did have some concrete pads in place, more on the west side of the building, things like that. So you take all that and the bottom line is when you put these out to bid, these units do come at a cost. And I think we're picking up 5 out there, rooftop units. I think we're doing six units on that building out there. So we're getting a lot of bang for this buck that we're spending here now. And we are tapping into the local, but we are getting a lot accomplished. And anytime you do that, then you're enhancing electric through the building, you're doing all that. So everything's had a little bit different requirements now in the gas lines and things like that. So it's unfortunate that we're that, but that's what happens when you do the bid market like that. We'd like for the grant money to be more, but it just wasn't. But that's kind of, but the building does have some structural, it's a good sound building, but when you start messing with it, then you got to come up to the local needs and codes, so. That's it.
Gotcha. No,
Okay.
that makes sense.
All right.
Those are my 2 questions. I do have one request, Mr. Thompson.
Yep.
Do me a solid.
Yep.
Once this is all up and running, keep
Yep.
track of your alums, keep track of where they go, all the job placements, all the data.
Yep.
Because whoever is sitting in these seats and when's the end of the grant, 5 years from now, they'll need that data in order to help support the case for maintaining this. So please keep good graduation rates come to mind first. I can come up with a whole list for you. I'm sure Dr. Hummer's probably got some things, but data is key.
Yep.
Stats are key.
Yep, no
So,
problem. Yep, we
please.
can do that. The other thing I will mention is, again, a side benefit to this is if we get 60 kids in there, that's 60 more kids that help relieve some of the student overcrowding in some of our high schools. So there's benefit there as well.
Great.
Yep.
Thank you.
Thank
That's
you.
all I have.
Other question?
Just one, and I know that this is not necessarily a building and grounds thing right now, but I'm just very curious because I'm very supportive of the program and I see what you're doing out there. I'd be interested to know when you're ready to tell us, what would it take to put your diesel space back in? What would a cost be to give you guys what you really want and need over there for that diesel program? It's something that the community has spoken about and there is a lot of regional support for, and I would just be curious to know what we would be looking at to give you what you really need to make that happen.
Yep.
You know?
What's that?
Do you know?
So,
If you don't,
yeah,
if you don't know, don't guess.
I don't.
Yeah,
Because,
we'll look into it. Just to know if you know.
I
something.
know the one side of it, but what I don't know is the building piece side of it right now. So I'd have to think about that a little bit, and I can get back to you on that. and Dr. Hummer knows this, there's a 10-year expansion plan that I had for programming at Dow J. Howard. And so we can talk more about that at a time that's appropriate and working in conjunction with his plans as well. So I'm happy to talk about that. There's many other programming opportunities that we would like to see for our kids here within Frederick County. Cosmetology is one that always gets, huge requests for us on the interest survey and others. So, but that's a part of a bigger conversation.
Aviation?
Aviation, yes,
Yep.
yes.
Unmanned flight. I mean, I can,
Yeah.
that's actually very soon coming down the road for me. But so, thank you.
One final question, and I guess I got both of y'all up here. Being that we're in partnership with George Mason, is there any strings attached to this grant?
Meaning,
Are they requesting, we'll give you this grant if you do this, or you open it up to this?
So the grant comes from the Governor Youngkin VDOE administration through George Mason University to the locality. And so there are certain things that we have to do, like provide a program for kids.
Right.
One is that it has to be a regional program. We don't have the space within Frederick County to offer that, so that's all virtual online with George Mason staff. No other no other school division will participate physically at Dow J. Howard. There are some data points that we've got to provide, and that's done by George Mason University and Deb Crawford. So they work together. There's a gentleman named Padu at George Mason that Deb works with to make sure that the data is provided. So there's things like that, but it's not like we don't have to guarantee so many kids go there or anything of that nature. There is an administrative fee that George Mason gets to keep to carry, administer the grant, but that is all approved by VDOE. That's not something that we have a say in per se. We don't have to pay them. I mean, we have to pay them tuition dollars for the online courses that the kids take there, but hopefully that answers your question.
It does.
Generally.
I appreciate it.
Yep.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, may I ask a question?
Send it.
Yeah, something occurred to me when Mr. Kenny was talking about the updated electrical. Correct me if I'm wrong, and maybe this is a question for Mr. Kenny. By doing this and moving forward, this potentially could make it less expensive to add the additional HVAC systems in the future when the funding is there, simply because the electrical or the groundwork would basically be done. Am I right in assuming that? Because you said this is only going to encompass 30% of what you actually need?
And that's just a rough idea.
Yeah, you're exactly right. Any new work we install now, it takes it in effect. Think of the CAP projects that we have. If we have rooftop units, part of the CAP that facilities is doing, that comes off of that area there. Any new electric upgrades and things, new lights and all like that, reduces any renovation costs of things down the road. So yes, all that. The good thing is we got the main switch gear and all the service is out there. So it's all capable of handling what we're doing. Doesn't have to be upgraded. So yes, we always take that into account, and any new work we're doing now stays new and comes off of any renovations or upgrades.
Excellent. So this is indeed saving money in the future potentially.
That's it. Just, it's an investment in the future.
Gotcha. Thank
All
you.
Open up a can of worms for me. So, Mr. Kenny, are you saying, before you sit down, are you saying that the switch gear that will be going in for those units will be able to,
They're going to upgrade some panels because of the data labs there. There's some
Right.
old panels in the hallway. So those are just electrical panels, sub panels and things
Yep.
right there. The main service into the building in there is good to go. They've checked all that out, so that doesn't have to be upgraded. So we don't have to bump up transformers and things like that anymore.
will we, when we finish the rooftop units, or is this built into that?
It's all built into that. Yeah,
Okay.
all that's good.
So,
yeah.
so when we go to do the the HVAC units, the remaining 60% or whatever it is,
Mm-hmm.
70%, then we won't be looking at electrical renovations.
You'll still have electrical
you'll-
renovations to
You'll have
run
to
new
do a little bit. You have to
service
run
to them and stuff.
conduit
Yeah.
and everything like that, but the service will be
But the
there.
main service there, they did a load analysis and it still should be good. on that.
All right, sounds good.
All right.
Thank you. Great question, Daryl. All right, so once again, the superintendent has a recommendation before us. How would the board like to proceed?
Mr. Chair, I recommend that we forward this recommendation to the full board, the contract award to PBI Environmental Restoration LLC, T/A, PBI, T/A, interesting, PBI Commercial for the Dal J. Howard Diesel and Data Services Lab, HVAC renovation in the amount of $1,196,363.29.
Second.
All right, motion's been made, properly seconded. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Passes.
Yep.
Thank you for that. We have two more awards up tonight. So we are recommending to forward to the full board the contract award to Blackstone Roofing LLC for the James Wood Middle School roof replacement in the amount of $899,000.
That's a lot of money.
Mr. Chairman. I just have some questions. Is this the entire building? Is this a portion of the building?
It is-
How much roof are we getting?
I will defer to facilities for that. It is
We
not
have,
the
we
entire.
have someone who can speak to that here tonight.
Yeah.
Hello. So it's just going to be a portion of the building. So they did the main slate a couple years back. So it's just a portion of the rubber EPDM roof that's there already that we're going to be doing.
Like,
So it's the slate. This is the slate, all slate roof replace, well,
No, the
partial
slate is,
slate.
yeah, the slate is staying. That was already replaced. So it's
Okay.
just the EPDM, the actual rubber membrane roof on the back part of that building. You'll see there's
Okay.
a couple areas that are just that black rubber. So that's what's being replaced on that.
and that is it all the EPDM?
Yeah, so there's certain sections that are not going to be replaced, but most of it's going to be replaced, and there's a couple layers on that as also is what threw a wrench into the whole program, because there was a couple layers that was already on there, so to do, the proper way, we're removing all that and applying new.
The portions that are not being replaced, how they look?
They're in good shape, yeah, they're no need to do anything with that as of now.
How long is this supposed to last? Or does
PDM lasts about 30 years.
30? Okay. When was the last time this was replaced?
I would have to find that out, that was way before my time, but.
Gotcha. Okay, okay.
Anything else?
Dr. Hummer, where's the funding coming from? Is this unobligated funds as well?
Correct, if I'm not mistaken. Or was this part of the CAP dollars? I think this was CAP dollars that was approved this last budget cycle.
Ms.
Yeah.
Chapman, did we have other bids on this project?
We did have other
Would you
bids.
mind reviewing those bids for the committee?
You know where I was going.
Yep, so I have the bid sheet here for you, I can give to you. We had quite a few bids come in, 16 total bids on this one. We did open up recently to accepting electronic bids, which has increased our
That's great.
bid count greatly, so that's going to be great moving forward, and I will bring you the sheet right now so you can take a look at those. Sorry, it's on 2 pages.
Thank you, ma'am. Wow. That's an expensive roof.
Holy smokes.
All righty, any other questions? Got to be on this committee, buddy.
I know, that's right. I do echo Mr. Adkins' sentiments. It would be very nice to have these baked into the slide presentation, just so our other board members can see it and so the general public can see it as well.
Absolutely.
Absolutely, we can do that.
Thank you. I know it makes for a longer deck, but I think it's worth it.
Totally fine. We can do that.
All right. If there's no other questions, the superintendent has a recommendation before us. How would the board like to proceed?
Mr. Chair, I move that we recommend to forward the full board the contract award to Blackstone Roofing LLC for the James Wood Middle School roof replacement in the amount of $899,000.
Second.
All right, we have a motion on the table. It's been properly seconded. Any other questions? No discussion? All right, how the board, all those in favor of the recommendation before us signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Hearing no further discussion, motion passes.
Okay, great. And the last one that we have is a recommendation to forward to the full board the contract award also to Blackstone Roofing LLC for the Apple Pie Ridge Elementary School roof replacement in the amount of $310,000. And I do have the bid tab sheet for you as well. We received 15 bids in for this project.
Thank you, Ms. Chapman.
Mr. Chairman, may I ask a question?
Yes, you may.
I was wondering if, I don't know if this is allowed, I'm a novice at the whole bid process, but if you grouped the bids together for like projects, for instance, there are 2 roofs that need to be replaced, is that something that we can do or have done or looked at? Would it provide us a less expensive dollar amount? I don't know. I'm truly asking.
It's not something that we've done in the past. We could consider doing it. We try to keep it, fair and open and offer up as many projects as we can. And I think it's a possibility, something we could look at, grouping those together.
Yeah, I'm just wondering if, by providing 2 projects, they may come in a little bit less to get the additional work, to guarantee those dollars for them for that particular budget cycle that they're going through.
Sure.
But again, I don't know. I'm just thinking out loud. So I don't know if that's something we can look into easily or not. I mean, you're the construction guru.
I think it's a great point. You want to be back on the committee? But no, that's a great point. I would be kind of curious to see, usually when we group stuff together like that, you can usually get a discount rate. I know it puts a lot more work on you guys, but yeah, I would like to see if we're bidding this out, we know we have, let's say, boilers, chillers, roofs coming in, if we could put that and group those together and maybe get a discounted rate from one of our vendors for doing multiple projects at once, that'd be great.
Sure.
Anything to save a buck.
Okay, we can certainly look into
I
it.
appreciate your time.
Sure.
All right, the superintendent has a recommendation before us. How the board like to proceed?
Mr. Chair, I move that we recommend to the full board the contract award to Blackstone Roofing LLC for the Apple Pie Ridge Elementary School roof replacement in the amount of $310,000.
Second.
Motion been made, properly seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing none, proceed to vote. All those in favor of the recommendation signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes.
Thank you.
Okay, that brings us to the end of our agenda. I'd like to thank all of the presenters tonight for the wonderful work that you put in to make sure we had a great meeting. And Dr. Hummer, I turn it back over to you. Thank you.
All right, thank you, guys, and I appreciate everybody for your hard work on this. And Mr. Chair, that's all we have, unless you have any questions.
Any further comments from the board? Other board members? All right, I want to say thank you for your guys' time this evening, presentations. Happy Veterans Day to anybody out there who's served in the armed forces. Appreciate your service. So with that, do I have a motion to adjourn?
Mr. Chair, I move that we adjourn the Buildings and Grounds Committee meeting.
Second.
All right, motion on the table, been properly seconded. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, motion passed. We are adjourned.